Well, good evening, folks. This is Dave Schmidt. I'm your host here again tonight on the Sedona Connection. This is our September 25th program. I want to welcome everybody that's joining us here. And Stan Henderson, thank you as well, coming from New Zealand. So, all is well here in my home in Sedona today. All has been going well. What else can I say other than the fact that I am probably going to be making a quick trip again back to Africa for that continued response that I have of being able to picking up some additional funding. But remember, it has nothing to do with the exchange funding, but there's a very high probability that it's going to be able to provide us the opening funds for the credit union that we need. So, but other than that, all is well here. So now, as we get started here on the program, I just want to remind everybody that the exchange is still open for people to purchase any dong. That's going to be continuing to be ongoing there for just a little bit. Let me rephrase that. I don't see that closing anytime soon. And it's because of the fact that the Texas Processing Office, their funds continue to grow, so therefore there are still more funds available for people coming into the exchange. Now remember, you can come in for as little as $62 for 1 million dong. The default that I send out to you is $312 for 5 million dong. And remember, that's scheduled to pay out at $1.50 a dong. So that's a pretty good deal there, okay? So now, when it comes to the payout, yes, I did say that our brokers were saying that there's a possibility we may see something towards the end of September to the end of the year. Nothing new has been said, folks. And I probably won't hear anything from them for about the next maybe 3 to 4 days because they usually report right around the end of the month. But there is nothing new on that. So don't go planning on it. Don't go asking me. We have no idea. Now remember, there have been occasions in the past they were ready to go and they wanted to go, but all of a sudden they ran into some outside interference that could have been created some problems. So basically it got shut down. Now that has happened periodically. We don't know. And also, they will never, ever pre-announce the release of the funds for security reasons. And then a little item on top of that, I would be the last one that they would tell when the funds are going to be released. Why? Because I am the only one that is doing this radio program talking about this currency exchange and also, in the workshops. And so they don't want me to know in advance because then the opposition could come in a step early and they don't want that. So that's the scoop there now. So with that, also one other announcement. Again, the workshops I mentioned are back and up and going. Registration is open for the workshop in Chicago on October 12th. You just go to my website, you scroll down, and that's where you can, fill out the registration and sign up for the workshop there in Chicago. And remember, folks, I do have scholarship rates available for anybody that might have, the funds might be tight. We've got lots of room. We've got lots of room available for the Chicago workshop. And again, as I have always said, when it comes time that the funds are going to be released, I start with the most recent workshop, the people that had attended, and then I work back from there, okay? So I needed to shut off a kind of a Facebook link on my other page. I work back from there, and I'll probably go back maybe about, 10 workshops, and then after that, we'll be fine. Robin, you said you were listening on Blog Talk, and I disappeared. Uh, I seem to be fine. It says that I'm on the air. Everything seems to be going fine. I've got lots of people there. I'm not seeing any comments. If any of you are that are listening to me on Blog Talk, and if you're also in on the Facebook, would you leave a little note there? It looks like somewhere that I had disappeared on Blog Talk, and I have no idea why, but everything seems to be going fine here on Facebook. So now, with that, I'm ready to move into today's program. And what I shared is I'm going to share this video from this lady called Saratoga Ocean. I really like her. She's a wonderful source of understanding the importance and the power of consciousness and how that keeps us awake and aware and alert to what's going on in our world. And basically, it helps us move out of being what is called the sheeple, the sheep. Because the sheep are the ones who basically are just kind of doing what they're told and they're not really in a state of consciousness and awareness. And she did a program about understanding the hidden truth about money. Now, this is about 25 minutes long. The actual program was close to 39 minutes, and I cut it way back. I actually wanted it to be a little bit shorter, but boy, she had such great things to say that is extremely important for us to understand the power around money and the influence that it has in our lives. So let's go now and watch this video by Saratoga Ocean. Okay? Now, it takes just a little bit for the sound to come up. Hang in there. Why are we not getting sound here with this video? There we go. Okay. All right.
Today, I want to talk to you about one of the most controversial subjects in the world, which is money. Now, you may have heard that the controllers are having yet another one of their secret meetings. I think it's in Portugal this time. Well, apparently, the top two things they are going to discuss, the two things at the top of their list are AI and the banking system. So, you may have also heard that these controllers are working feverishly to create a new way to control us completely using money. Now, I'm not really going to be talking about the money system per se, because what I really want to discuss with you guys is our consciousness around the subject of money. Because these controllers have been using this to enslave us. They've been using their system of how they operate with it and how they manage to control it, literally, I think, for thousands of years. We cannot afford to go into the next phase of whatever's going to happen on this planet. We cannot afford to go into that phase with the same mindset that we've all had for centuries, which is the mindset that they established in our consciousness in order to get things to the point that they are today. So I want to talk to you on the level of our consciousness, basically. Because if you've seen my last couple of videos, certainly the last few, I think, you might remember that I've been suggesting for a very long time that we need to go to a whole new level in our consciousness with how we approach our situation on this planet. So what I want to talk to you about today is first and foremost about the fact that we need to clear our consciousness completely of all the junk, all the propaganda, all the brainwashing, all of the mind control that has been put on us as a humanity around the subject of money, prosperity, abundance, all of it, that has been pummeled into our brains for many generations, for hundreds and thousands of years. So the reason I want to focus on clearing and transmutation of that is because the more of this junk we can transmute and clear from our consciousness, the better chance we have of waking up at a quantum level. And that's the level I think we need to wake up at. And I think we can wake up at that level. I truly believe that this is possible. Now, here's a way to start looking at this. We know that the current goal is to get us under total 100% absolute control using some new weird form of a financial system, right? Now, I'm not going to go into what it is. Maybe you guys have heard, but I'm not going to bring it up here. What has been done to our humanity all this time? I want you to think of it like this. It's like they've built a scaffolding in our minds to support and house this final agenda. Because see, if we were totally free and we lived in abundance and prosperity and the whole world was in abundance and everything was awesome the way it's supposed to be, right? If we were living like that, do you really think these controllers could just march in and say, okay, people, now we're going to shut all of that down. We're going to control you completely. You're going to have nothing but bugs and weeds and live in tiny spaces and you're going to have nothing and you'll be happy, right? See, that would never work under those conditions. So instead, they had to very methodically, in order to acquire power over us, they had to very methodically use certain paradigms that would get instilled in our consciousness mentally and emotionally, which would therefore manifest physically, in order to, as I said a moment ago, build a type of scaffolding in our consciousness that is now, I believe, encoded in our DNA because it has been going on for so long. So before we talk specifically about money, we need to talk about the principle of abundance. Because the universe supports abundance. And if we're not in alignment with that principle, if we instead have been forcibly manipulated into anchoring ourselves in a belief of scarcity, fear, guilt, and thinking that abundance and prosperity are just evil, associated with greed, associated with criminal behavior or bad people and, all that stuff, we are not in alignment with abundance. Our consciousness is not in alignment with abundance and prosperity. And that is 100% by design by these controllers. Now, the truth is that in the universe, which is I guess you could almost call it a forum of endless creation. Again, going back into the quantum field, which is the thing that lies behind all matter in space and time, within that quantum field, that is the realm of infinite possibilities. Infinite possibilities, the place from which creation manifests, is a realm also of infinite abundance. That makes sense, right? Infinite creation, infinite possibility would mean infinite abundance in all forms. Not just money-wise, but all the ways in which abundance manifests. So you could say that abundance is actually a principle and it is actually a truth, if you look at it from that perspective. Now, there is infinite energy that keeps us alive, that supports us, and supports whatever it is that we choose to create wherever we are in this universe, whether we're on planet Earth or anywhere else. So that means an ongoing flow of abundant support, an unimpeded flow of creativity, of goodness, of prosperity and love, and all of the things that make life wonderful, because life is supposed to be wonderful. So once they started applying numbers to everything, it became very, very easy to tie literally every single thing on Earth into the controller's banking system. And this is the main way that they use to control the entire planet. See, if they can control how those numbers are applied and in what manner, then they can control the interactions between everything that exists here. Once you attach their numbers to things and activities, you can move those numbers around and make everything that's attached to those numbers follow along according to your wishes. So let's take a moment to look behind the curtain and see what's really there. Think about for a moment all of the things, the objects, the items that exist on Earth, and this includes items in nature because they've got numbers on everything. And also think about all of the activities or services that have numbers on them. What are all of these things and activities really made of? Well, they're made of energy, right? So in its simplest form, you have various manifestations of energy, and you have numbers attached to each of those manifestations, which are meant to denote the value of that energy manifestation. If you look behind all of this and the simplicity of it, you could instantly recognize that actually there is no money. There are only numbers and things and activities attached to those numbers. Let's take a look at this in the real world of everyday experience. Let's say, for example, you have a job. Someone has attached certain numbers to the value of that job. So if you do the job, you will be given that amount of numbers in your bank account. A bank account is where they keep your numbers. Now, suppose you go to a grocery store. You will notice that every single item in that grocery store has a number attached to it. Suppose you pick up, say, 5 items. Well, you have to make sure that the numbers on those items add up to at least the numbers you have in your bank account. And I'm not even going to get into credit cards because that's not really necessary to make the ultimate point that I want to make here. The point I want to make is that this whole thing is nothing more than shifting numbers placed on top of various forms of manifesting energy. So you have numbers and you have energy. But this is not what we're supposed to be thinking about. No, because if we understand what this really is, which is what I just described, those controllers are going to have a really hard time. And see, a really big problem for them, if this was all we saw, we would be really hard to control because we would just be creating all the time. We would be saying, hey, unlimited energy, unlimited numbers, quantum field, we're creators. Hey, this is awesome, right? And they'd just be kind of like left in the cold, unable to do anything. So what do you think the controllers thought about way back even in ancient times? Well, they knew that we can't let these people think like that. That'll never work for our plan. So they had to figure out a way to get us to want nothing to do with any of this so they could be free to manipulate all of it and us however they wanted to. Now, you see, numbers shift and change, mediums of trade and currency, it's all moving around a little bit too much, right? So it's a little hard to nail it down as the enemy because, see, they needed to get us to see this beautiful field of abundance as really bad, as like our enemy. So they came up, now this is not exact history, you guys, okay? So don't come at me with, well, Saratoga, that's not the actual history. I'm trying to give it to you conceptually in the simplest of ways because I'm ever mindful of the goal of what we're trying to accomplish here. So just to put it in simple terms, how do you consolidate all of those numbers, or in the past currencies, or the whole thing that was going on top of the energy to move it around? How do you consolidate all of that into one thing that you can get everybody focused on is really, really bad and something you should have nothing to do with? Well, you come up with a single word and a single concept, and you call it money. So once the controllers labeled these numbers as money, they could take our focus off of the energy that these numbers were attached to. They could then get us to focus on money as an actual thing. And that was seriously important because once they convinced us that money was a thing in and of itself, then they could so easily get us to think negatively about it. And that's very easy to do when money isn't really the thing that you actually want. What you actually want is the abundance of energy and flow that money represents. But they told us that money is the only gateway to that flow and that they control the gateway. What they wanted was to get us to fear and hate the gateway by using these negative tactics to make us willingly push ourselves out of the realm of openly desiring and acquiring money. They get to control it all. And thus, they also control us. We have been completely bamboozled by these evil controllers because what they have actually accomplished is to create a major divide between us and God and between us and the universe that would naturally supply us with abundance in every form if our consciousness were properly aligned with that principle. They have made it very difficult and in some cases impossible for us to align our consciousness with the natural flow of abundance in this universe. All of this negativity around money causes us to seize up with fear and feel unable to surrender to the goodness that the creator of all that is really wants for us. See, it's not really even money that we desire. What we desire is a restoration to feeling connected to an ease of flow in our lives. And if money is the current way to receive that flow of energy, then it's time that we stop hating it so much. It's time that we stop fearing it so much. Dealing with this right now is seriously important because the controllers are currently planning for a universal, am I allowed to say this? Basic, I'll put words in between it, income. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that. That's what they're planning for. And that plan is designed to shut us all down once and for all. They are working right now to turn the screws on our pre-existing hatred of money and bring us to a point where we actually believe that their plan to permanently enslave us is a good thing. We need to transmute their conditioning so that we can fully align our consciousness with a power that is greater than they are. So here's what I suggest you do if you want to. Try this little experiment. See if you can find out where the boundaries are in your consciousness when it comes to money. How much money would it take for you to remove all of the financial stress in your life? What flow of income on a monthly basis would you need to finally be able to truly relax and create what you want in life? And if that happened, how would you be living differently than you are living right now? And then allow yourself to get into the feeling of that. And what would you be doing differently? Now, as you get into this, notice the different thoughts and emotions that come up. Notice all of the nooks and crannies in your mind where negativity in any form about this still exists. It could come in the form of, well, that's not possible for me, or I don't deserve that, or people won't like me anymore, or that's just not necessary. It's not fair. I can just continue on the way that I always have. And then notice the emotions that come up. Maybe you feel a sense of guilt at wanting to live a better life. Maybe you feel like you don't deserve it or that you're not worthy. Maybe you feel like it wouldn't be fair for you to have a good life if others don't. Maybe the idea of prosperity and abundance literally scares you. So once you try this little exercise, you will be left with a choice. You can either dismiss it and go on as you always have, or you can pause and ask yourself if you truly want to clear the fear and negativity so you can have a chance to find some relief. So you have a chance to open up to a change in your circumstances. Now, the controllers are pummeling us more and more with fear about the economy, the banks, war, and a financial collapse. They are softening us up for the kill. They want us to expect their dire predictions instead of creating something else. I am telling you guys, the biggest problem that we have with these controllers is their ability to control our minds. What they're trying to do right now is to create a negative momentum in our consciousness so that when they take us over the cliff, we will hardly even notice that they did it because we will have been expecting their dire predictions all along. See, we can actually say no to this. We can actually refuse one more second of their disgusting negativity. Instead, we can seek to align ourselves with the universal principles of abundance and enough wealth and prosperity for all. Why not try out the universe for a change? Why not look to a much better possibility for ourselves? It does exist. I mean, miracles do happen, but we have to get behind that vision on a deeply personal level. Just remember that everything is energy. Everything you have ever desired is energy in its finest form. There is no shortage of energy in this universe. You are not a bad person because you desire to create a better, easier life for yourself. It's entirely natural to feel that way, and it's what we're all evolving into anyway. Now, the frontier for this war for our souls is in our minds. It's time that we take ownership of that space within. It's time to kick those controllers out of that space once and for all. They have no business being there. It is entirely within our authority as legitimate human beings in this universe to say no more to their nefarious actions. So let me just finish with one final thought. You can think of all that negative programming that the controllers have instilled in us about abundance and prosperity and money, all the stuff I talked about being like the scaffolding, all of that programming it's almost like a dam that dams up a river of abundance. Because abundance in this universe flows like a river. So you can imagine that abundance like a river is meant to flow through you and out into your life. So the controllers instill a bunch of negativity, fear, guilt, shame, all of that, which acts as a big no in front of that flow of abundance. And we end up with, instead of a river of abundance, we end up with a trickle, just barely enough, right? So the whole idea in deprogramming ourselves is to get rid of that junk that acts like a dam that dams up that river and holds it back, so that then we can realign our consciousness and our energy with the natural flow of abundance. That is what this universe is really about. This universe is about endless creation, endless abundance, endless flow of energy, and how that energy can manifest with no limitations, infinite possibilities. And that's what we're trying to evolve into. So I think this might be a good step for us to take right about now. So if you can see it in this way, you can also realize that you're actually taking an evolutionary step by removing the negativity that's in the way of that flow. So I invite you to just, contemplate all of the things I've said here. If you resonate with it, if it makes sense to you, if you feel like maybe you want to embrace your natural desire for goodness, ease, and beauty, and comfort, and love, and abundance, and prosperity, if you feel like maybe you'd like to actually embrace that for a change within yourself, well, maybe you want to try out my little idea of an experiment of transmuting that junk that's in the way of that. And then we have a chance to circumvent more being piled on us, more being suppressed, more suppressing us. And maybe we have a chance to have a very different outcome. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it out with anyone else who you think would like a new, refreshing mindset when it comes to prosperity and abundance.
Okay. Wow. I think that's a very, very good and important message for us to be aware of and to understand. We are the ones who get to be the trailblazers to a shift and change of bringing abundance in a greater measure to all of us around us, of our friends, our families, and our culture and our society. But when all of a sudden you get a lot of money in the millions given to you, it's really important to check, where is your thought system? Where is your consciousness? Where are you in allowing that to flow into your life in a healthy way, in a healthy manner? Now, this is a really important video, and I would encourage you. Now, I will send this out again, tomorrow in the newsletter. And also, I will give you a link to the full video if you want to. I shouldn't say that. All you need to do, at the beginning of the program, she gives her name, SaratogaOcean.com, and you just go to her website, and it will be there, the full 39-minute portion of this video, if that is what you would like to see. So, as a side note, she mentioned the whole concept of numbers. Money is numbers. It's interesting if you look at the history of how the banking system started. This banking system of money in banks and numbers was started by none other than the asshole of the earth, Marduk. Marduk is the Anunnaki that considers himself the king of the earth, and he was the one that started this money system with numbers as a form of power and control, to keep us suppressed, to keep us in a position of less, and to keep us where we didn't understand the power and the awareness of abundance of our consciousness. So it's very interesting how she brings all this up. So that's pretty much what I wanted to share in the program tonight. I hope that this was a really good one for you. I am ready now to go into, if anybody wants to call in with any comments or questions. That number is 515-605-9356. Again, 515-605-9356. You call that number, you press 1 on your touch-tone phone. That lets me know that you'd like to come on the air. There's probably about a 15-second delay somewhere in there from the time that I'm saying this before you're going to hear it. in Facebook or on Blog Talk Radio. So we'll give a little bit of a time for that there to come through. We are a people that it's important that we have a proper and healthy consciousness and mindset about what is coming our way, and that it is very healthy and it is very good for us. And as I mentioned, we get to be the trailblazers to this shift and change that's coming. Now, as I understand it, now it's not, I don't have this as an exact information, but this whole complete exchange process is going to continue to go on for some time, and we're just the ones that are getting to be in the beginning of it. As I said, we're the trailblazers. And so, as I mentioned to you before, it's important to know that as the funds come forward, the funders, they don't want us taking the money, putting it into the bank, hoarding it, and just letting it sit there. They want us to have a consciousness of abundance, that we begin to spend it. Now, you don't have to spend all of it, of course. Of course, you're going to take some of it and put it aside into a trust for a retirement for yourself and your family. And you're going to also, but it's a good portion of it that we wanted to be spending, and a portion of it to be giving away to help others. That is the flow of abundance, okay? So, I am not seeing anybody that is deciding to say they want to call in and talk tonight. So I think we've had a good program. And with all of that, I think, folks, that we'll probably then see you next week. I should plan on being back here next week, okay?
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.